Cool. There we are. There we are. Welcome to Talking Heads, everyone. Episode 372. Your once weekly live show for the latest in beer and tech news. I'm Jeff.
I'm Rett.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining on this Wednesday night or in podcast form over on Spotify or wherever your favorite podcasts are found. If you've never seen the show before, we talk beer, we talk tech, we talk games, pop culture, entertainment, sometimes some Star Trek. All super chats are read on the air so long as they will not permanently demonetize the channel. We do drink alcohol on the show, and if you're drinking along with us, alcoholic or not, let us know in the chat, and we'll give some early show shoutouts as we go along. Last but not least, if you'd like to take part in the super secret chat and the even more super secret after party, think about joining the Patreon. Link is down in the video description. As a bonus, you'll get exclusive access to my Discord server where you can chat with myself, John, Rett, Steve, all the hosts from Talking Heads, and join the awesome community that hangs out over there. And it's a show. We are live. How you doing,
Welcome.
sir?
Hanging in there.
Hanging in there? That's all we can ask for most of the time, right?
You know, that's been my go-to since November. Is just like, people are like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, hanging in there.
Yeah.
It's become such a reflex that sometimes people are like, everything all good? I'm like, yeah, everything's fine. It's just I am just hanging in there, though.
Yeah. Yeah. I've done that one before. I've done the hanging in there before. I usually give the customary, I'm all right.
I'm all right.
I'm all right.
I'm breathing, ain't I?
Yep. Yep. Oh, it's been a long couple of weeks. Hopefully, the review circuit is winding back down. Obviously, it's been go for video card reviews and
yep.
Questioning if I even want to do video card reviews.
Yeah, it's hard to exist in that space, I feel like. You know what I mean? Because you're competing with everybody and their mother.
Yeah. And
for eyeballs and
yeah, it's look, I'm in this space because I'm an enthusiast. I love this stuff. I love talking about this stuff. I don't know. We'll get into it. We'll get into it a little bit. Allison sends over £2. Thank you so much. This was a $10 super chat before the tariff. You forgot YouTube took another 30%, so yeah, we're looking at a quid 70 if I'm really lucky by the time you're done with this. Or sorry, quid 30. Yeah. Man. I don't even want to talk tariffs, and I don't want to get into that.
Why, has there been something going on? Blessedly, Jeff, I've been able to avoid the news. Well, not avoid it. That's
say, how have you done that?
It's called a big cave. Every night I roll a rock over the front of my cave and I live underground.
I mean, share with me your ways, please.
I now have an answer when they say, what rock are you living under?
Yeah. All right, well, that answers which beer I'm opening first. Hold on, let me swap my glasses around here. I went, hey, that one looks good. I'll based on label alone, and it's something that's one of my beers is a growler tonight. So, and I went, all right, well, I know what ABV that is, and I know what kind of beer that is. What's this beer? And I grabbed it, and oh, that's a 12% Imperial Stout. Cool, that one's going second. Yeah. How you doing? Hanging in there. I'm hanging in there.
It's just a reflex.
Yeah.
Hanging in there.
I think I'm going to have to go back to that because you bring up the tariff thing. And like I said, I don't want to talk about it. But at the same time, I'm trying to start a second business because one business was not complicated enough to run. And the second business, I'm selling product. which was supposed to be delivered today. My first 40 validation boards for OpenViro sensors were supposed to be delivered today, and they made it from LA to Seattle after coming over from China. And so I was hoping to actually like open the package like on stream tonight, and it's like, I have to wait till next week now. And the moment is gone because I'm gonna open them like first thing when they arrive. So now I can't do it live on camera, but we'll show them off next week. In fact, by next week we might have a video on the channel already announcing the pre-order. So we'll see. We'll see how quickly things move. But I'm trying to start this business, and all this talk of tariffs, and there's already 25% plus everything else that's on everything from China, plus raw aluminum. I'm making cases from extruded aluminum, which I'm ordering from China, so that cost went up 30% basically overnight. And then there's talk about, maybe 50, maybe 70, depends on what side of the bed I wake up on this morning. Maybe we'll roll them back on Tuesday. I don't know. God. I'm legitimately trying to start a small business in the States, and you're pricing me out.
That's because we don't want small businesses.
Right.
We want corporate, gigantic...
But no, this was supposed to help American businesses with American-run things. You know what? I tried to do local, and I tried to do North American manufacturing. Do you want to spend $300 for this thing? Because that's the only way I can make it profitable. That is the only way I can make it profitable, is if I literally double or triple my retail cost. Do you want to pay $300? Cool. I'll do North American manufacturing all day long. And that was even quotes done in the bulk that I expect, which is still small potatoes, but it's still 2,500 units is what I was having quoted. 3 times the cost, even with the tariffs of doing them overseas. Guess what? I'm manufacturing overseas because I literally have no option if I ever want to sell anything. Yeah.
Sounds like you need to hook ChatGPT up to a 3D printer. Come on, man. You got to think like an American businessman.
Here's how my brain works, and I've talked about this before. My brain is always thinking in terms of scale. What happens if I need 1 of these? What happens if I need 30? What happens if I need 100? What happens if I need 1,000? What happens if this business grows to the point where I need 10,000, or I'm manufacturing them myself? Do I start buying the machines to cut my own PCB boards? Do I move manufacturing in a house? These are things I think about. Can I have the PCBs cut at a local factory and then move assembly in house and soldering and logistics in house? What's the real estate like around here? Where can I find a building that's large enough? I've thought about all of this. Do I move somewhere where it's more affordable? Do I move next to a plant that can manufacture the PCBs? Do I simply open a shop there and have someone else run a shop? I have ran all of these scenarios through, to more extent than you might fathom here on camera. But that's just how my brain works. It's how my brain has always worked. I'm really good at logistics. I just fucking hate it. But yeah. I need a drink. Thank you for getting me riled up with 2 of your British pounds talking about tariffs. God damn. So this is I always forget there's a tap house 3 minutes from my house. So this is a
heck yeah,
Fremont Lush. They're 7% IPA. This was all of like $16, so $4 a pint. I picked this up yesterday because I got home yesterday and I went, you know what? I really need a drink.
It's a really good tap house down there.
Yes.
One of the few places that
We're not gonna get specific about what tap house it is. We're just leaving it as there's a tap house near me.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that to you on live.
Just making sure.
No, it's just also one of the few places that also pays a really high like flat rate for music, and then you get a cut of the bar. So it's like I used to go and play in there all the time, and it was like a good wage for like 3 hours of music. It was like, damn.
Yeah.
Can I do this every day?
And you're given 20% tab? Like, what the hell?
Yeah. It's pretty sweet.
No mixology March, Craft Computing. I thought about that literally this morning when I was driving my daughter to school. I dropped her off, and then I started coming home, and I went, when did we get to March? Oh, crap. It's March. Yeah, so I am woefully underprepared for mixology March. We might have to move it to April this year. I've had so much on my mind. I don't know why. I've just had so much on my mind.
Do Mixology May.
Yeah, might do Mixology May. That might be fun.
But I'm going to do Mailbox May, so...
Mailbox May? That's fair. You know what? I had a Mailbox on the channel, or on the stream last week. So...
Oh. They're really good. I like Mailbox.
I had a Sanny M1859.
Oh, that's my favorite one at San Am. I love that beer.
It's so good.
I love that beer, and they've never canned it. They canned it once during COVID, but yeah, actually, my brother.
No, I had it in can. You can get it at the brewery now. Yeah.
Ah, perfect. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So my brother likes to throw PowerPoint parties where everybody shows up with a 10-minute PowerPoint presentation on a topic of your choice, and we get drunk. We have a good time. He did his on specific styles of beers, like specific like European beers, with a big emphasis on English beers, and it was like reminded me so much of San
your browns, your
Oh, dude, and the brown ale that he picked. I wish that I remembered the beers that he picked, because it was like I wanted to go down to the bottle house right after that and like pick some. The brown was amazing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't no Newcastle brown or whatever, something good.
Right. I've heard of PowerPoint parties. I've never known anyone who actually does one. So
they're really fun.
Yeah.
And people really bring their A game for whatever reason. Like the first time I did a presentation on the geography of Morrowind, that was fun.
Shocking. Where did you ever gather that much information in time?
I didn't need to gather the information, Jeff.
That was my point, Rett.
It's already locked up. The part that was probably the hardest was like I was really dedicated to doing a map that clicked all of like the geographical regions into place. So I had to like Photoshop out the map and then like animate the PowerPoint or whatever, so that when I was like pressing buttons, like the pieces came in and I could talk about stuff.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah, one of our friends did one on how to game the Taco Bell app to get the best deals. Gosh.
See, that's need to know information.
It was good. It was a good one. Somebody did a presentation on Dollywood, the theme park.
Yeah.
It was a really good presentation, including a short video of riding like the main roller coaster at Dollywood. It was good. It was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Highly recommend it.
Fremont Lush. I've had this one so many times. Such a good beer. Super clear. Can't go wrong with Fremont. What's really funny is what do you call him? Whoever was pouring my tap.
The bartender?
Bartender, I guess. Yeah. Well, bartender feels... Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Bartender feels weird because that's typically been the mixologist. That's been who mixing the drinks. What do you call exclusively the tap bartender? Is there a particular word?
Tender?
Or do we just use bartender?
I don't know. The Firkenfurter?
Yeah. So you see my conundrum saying, oh, the bartender. Yeah.
The keg kicker?
The tap lackey? I like that novella.
Tap lackey's not bad.
Tap lackey's
Tap
not
jockey?
bad. By the way, Patrick also sent over a $3 super chat. No message, just a pigeon giving me a fist bump, which I appreciate. So, fist bump right back. Bartender, they tend bar. I guess. Okay.
I mean, it's funny because like I would have never called John a bartender at Capitol. But
right.
But he called Chuck his bartender though.
Okay.
I guess it's different. He was his boss, so I don't know.
Right. Tapmaster?
Yeah, we got to come up with like a better name.
Right. Because when I hear bartender, I think of someone who's mixing drinks and pouring shots. Not of and sometimes there's a little 4-tap handle in front of them for pouring the Coors and the Miller. I don't necessarily think of someone who runs taps, a tap house as a bartender, and maybe that's on me, but for me the profession is different, and bartender was already established. I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking that, but who knows. Not to offend any people who run tap houses or bartenders alike. It's just I think they're slightly different. Beer wench.
I landed on beer wench very early, but I was like, no, we got to come up with something like a little bit more gender neutral.
Right.
We can't
less derogatory. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, just food for thought. What do we call tap jockeys?
So, by the way, you have the Fremont. I'm just going with what I had last time on the show, the electric surfboard.
Nice.
So go back to my last appearance on the show if you want to hear my review. It's really good IPA, really fruity. It's 9%.
Yeah.
And I can't believe it's that strong because it tastes like delicious, beachy IPA,
Have you had one of the Mad Elves yet?
Mm-mm.
Because you say it's hard to believe it tastes like this when it's this strong. Maybe that's beer number 2.
Mad Elf just like
maybe that's beer number 2.
I have not had that yet.
I bequeathed to Rett a couple Mad Elves and a couple of the Reds and Golden Ales Dragon Milks. So
I was gonna crack into my spoils, but I don't know. It felt like an odd Wednesday to be.
Yeah. Okay.
Opening, to be opening treasures, like
right.
I was like, this feels like a clean out my fridge kind of day.
I feel that. It's kind of what mine ended up being. Like I said, I've got the growler, and then I just grabbed a random can out of the back of the fridge. So I feel that.
No.
Taproom server, barista. See, I equate more like barista to tap. I don't know. Although barista is more akin to a bartender to me because they're mixing drinks anymore. I mean, you have multiple steps, multiple stages, multiple pieces of equipment, techniques, etc. And I'm not saying it's a skill issue. I'm just saying it's a different skill set. It's a different thing that you do. Different beers pour differently out of different taps. There is a skill to pouring beer. I'm not saying there's not. But yeah, master tapper, tap master.
Somebody says tapster is in the dictionary.
Interesting. I had not heard that term before, but I kind of like tapster. Anyway, we do have some news to get to.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Starting with, video card reviews are out now. The RTX 5070, definitely lackluster. I reviewed the 5070, but I fell short of calling that specifically a 5070 review. It was more of a, should you bother upgrading your GPU if you have a 5 or 6 year old PC? And I think the answer was yes. Like no, you're not going to get quite as much performance out of a brand new GPU that's 2 generations old on a 4-generation old CPU as you would slamming that thing in a 9800X3D system. But it certainly is worth still purchasing a new GPU or a newer mid-range GPU, I think, and to extend the life out of your system. And that was more, I think, what I was trying to do with that video. I called it 3 minutes into that video. Man, there's going to be a lot of upset reviewers tomorrow, because this is not good. It's not great performance, which is also kind of why I didn't want to just straight up make a video crapping all over the 5070. There were a lot of people who were going to do that. Do I think it's a great value card? No. I also didn't think I came across that way in the video. I laid out those expectations 2 minutes in. This is not... But I also don't have first-hand impressions of the 9070 or 9070 XT. I don't have those review samples yet. I've got a really good working relationship with Intel, AMD, and Nvidia, all three of them. And primarily my samples come just first party. I asked AMD if they had review samples, and they said nope, they were already out of samples of Radeon cards. I don't know, and so I was expected to get one from a board partner. Well, none of the board partners reached out to me for this particular review, even though I've got great relationships with a lot of board partners too. For some reason, my name just never came up, and I asked too late. So part of that's probably on me, but part of that, just like Craft Computing didn't rise to the top on any one person's list to get a review sample of this particular card. So I also did... If I had gotten a 9070 or 9070 XT sample, I was planning on delaying my video for the 5070 until today and just reviewing them all in one big video, because I felt that was the most genuine way to do this particular cycle. Since it was pretty obvious late last week I wasn't going to be able to secure a 9070 sample in time, I pivoted my content and did something else with the 5070 and tried to make some interesting content out of it. That wasn't just here's a 5070, it's $550. No, it's not, because it's never going to sell for that price. There's plenty of those videos out there. I tried to pivot into something that was a little bit different and maybe potentially useful to the community. Anyway, I don't want to dwell too much on some of the negative comments I got. You're just sucking up to Nvidia. You haven't said a bad thing about them yet. Yes, I did. The first sentence in my video was, it's their newest budget card. That's sucking up to Nvidia? No, that's calling them out for the MSRP BS that's been plaguing a lot of this.
I think the last 10 years of like internet culture in general has basically distilled legit like criticism or whatever down into like negativity. So it's like, if you're not being negative, then you're not giving real intellectual input on anything.
Right.
Which is really stupid way of looking at it. And that's just like, it trickles down to everything. You could be talking about a TV show, you could be talking about whatever. Computer enthusiasts are up there, you know.
Camera enthusiasts are up there. I literally just watched a video from Gerald Undone that posted just a couple hours ago, where he is being ran through the muck right now and being used as a focal point for why a particular new, I think the S1 or S1X or whatever the hell the new Lumix camera is, he's being raked through the mud right now because he gave really poor reviews for the rolling shutter on this particular camera. And so a lot of the people are jumping on the bandwagon, goes, look, Gerald Undone hates the rolling shutter review. He goes, I couldn't care less about that in that one. You know what also sucks on the camera? The battery life, and it overheats in my climate controlled basement. But no, it's the rolling shutter that's bad. And so meanwhile, I'm being ran through the muck kind of the same way. Not quite to the same extent, but there's been a number of comments where, oh, I'm not being hard enough on some of these issues.
Go watch go watch your other tech YouTubers for that take.
You know, do you know why sometimes I'm not hard enough? Because there's already 37 videos on that one subject. What am I going to add to the conversation? Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Someone said, I can't believe you're talking about the 5070 when all their cards just catch fire. No, the 5090 catches fire because they have poor implementation of grounding pads, and they have a shared grounding plane, which means you can deliver more current over one of the wires if you don't have proper connection, which is why those are catching fire. But that only happens in overcurrent situations. That happens because Nvidia doesn't have as much overcurrent protection, and the cable is technically under-spec'd for this particular delivery of 600 watts. But there's also been 20 videos that have reviewed this thing to death. If you want really good analysis on this, go watch frickin' Der Bauer take this thing down and watch his individual cable clamps and really get to the root of the issue. I don't have time to do that, so I'm not going to do that. I will direct you over to his video because it's fantastic content, and there's no reason for me to do it again. Yeah. But if I don't mention the fact that 5090s are catching fire in my 5070 video, suddenly I'm an Nvidia shill? I'm not going hard enough at them for an unrelated product?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, like, sometimes I write about tabletop RPGs on our D&D podcast's website for our blog. And when the blog posts were titled something like review or whatever,
yeah,
something that had the connotation that it was like, oh, this is like supposed to be critical, it's supposed to be whatever.
Right.
It would be the same thing. Like, we'd get a lot of like engagement about like we weren't negative enough or whatever. When I stopped implying that there would be any type of like critical examination of the game, people were a lot more receptive to just like writing about games in any type of way. You know, it's like I could talk about things that worked, that didn't work, that I liked, that I didn't like, and because it wasn't in the title or in the first paragraph, people were like, their vibe was so much more different about the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like, oh, I say it's a review, then they're gonna just look for the first negative thing,
yeah,
and latch onto that.
You
say it's something else, and they're
yeah. But Jeff, you mentioned nothing about the missing ROPS. Oh yeah, I mentioned nothing about the missing ROPS issue, which is affecting 0.5% of cards, which has already been addressed in the manufacturing process. Which Nvidia is reaching out to people and trying to make sure that that consumers are aware of it. It's not a mass recall issue. It's not an issue that's affecting any card that's currently shipping, because all those cards sold in the first frickin' 3 minutes, and it's already been addressed. What more do you want on this? The issue's closed. Move on. It doesn't affect the 5070. So what because Nvidia had an issue, I need to continue to shit on them to prove my chops as a reviewer? I don't understand. And Gerald brings this up in his video. Gerald brings this up in his video too. And his averages are right about where mine are, between 97-98% likes on a video. Yes, people still use the like and the dislike buttons. And 97.5, I think, is my typical, you know, ratio, which is pretty darn good if I do say so myself. So the people that are complaining make up not only 2% of the audience, but the 1% of the audience that decided to comment of those 2% who disliked my video. Is the 5070 a great value? No. I also didn't say it was. That wasn't the point of my video. My point of my video was putting that graphics card into a 6-year-old PC and seeing what the performance differences were between, number one, a graphics card that's 5 years old at this point in the RTX 3070, and both a 3 and a 6-year-old platform in a 12700K and a 3700X, and seeing what the performance differences were to a 9800X 3D. Do you know how much benchmarking went into making that video? Do you know how much time and effort went into reviewing 3 different platforms with 2 different graphics cards? across multiple games and accounting for system differences and everything else and trying to make everything as even as possible and then condense it down to 20 minutes. Ugh. And then to get 10,000 views and saying I'm not being harsh enough because the card that I use is apparently forsaken by God himself.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough because you're a YouTuber, but everybody knows that the YouTube comments are basically God's forsaken,
Right.
God's forsaken
children.
territory.
Yeah.
It's like, there's places on the internet like 4chan and its baby offshoot 8chan, and awful things are born there. And then there's the YouTube comments.
Yeah.
Which is even like its own brand of awful in some cases.
Yeah. And God forbid you get posted to Reddit and cross the hive mind. Actually, last couple times I've been cross posted to Reddit. Things have gone surprisingly well. So
yeah, there was a lot of cross posting when we were talking about the drama, the
drama,
TechTuber drama.
Yeah.
And I was surprised, not to give Jeff too much credit here, but so many people are just like, wow, I've never considered that point about this issue.
What a well-spoken and nuanced take. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and that was the predominant sentiment. And then a lot of people thinking that I said that somebody owed me money for real, which just goes to show you.
They latched onto that, didn't they?
And I tried to respond, but I lost control of my Reddit account.
Oh no.
Yeah.
What?
So I put on 2-factor authentication, and I've gotten locked out via my authenticator app because I don't remember my damn login on my authenticator app. So I just have a damn Reddit account floating out there. Luckily, I don't think I've ever posted anything that I'll have to scrub someday, but yeah, it was so awful. So I wanted to go on from a handle that people would recognize since they're talking about me, and say actually, no, he doesn't owe me money. That was a joke.
Right.
But can't do that.
Yeah,
so,
that was a joke for an appearance fee because I showed up in the background of one of his videos, which, by the way, Linus's 9070 review, you see my nose and the side of my glasses in his cutback to CES at the Nvidia announcement. I was sitting at the end of the row from Linus, and
nice.
And you see just this much of my face. And I'm like, mother owes me money.
He used my likeness without permission.
That's right. He used it twice. He used the same clip twice.
Yeah.
I finished my 5070 review. I spent 3 straight days collecting data for that, writing that, and then filming it. And then I didn't film that video until 8:30 Monday night. I started filming at 8:30 Monday night. Now, in my process, I'm pretty well prepared once I hit record on the camera. I spend usually about an hour recording a video, maybe another 20 to 30 minutes getting B-roll shots if needed and things like that. But by the time I'm hitting record on a video, all of my screen capture, all of my benchmarks are already done. In this case, I hadn't yet done up my charts because this is a chart that needed 6 figures and my template is only 4. And so I had to build myself a new template and then redo all my, rechart everything. And so I had to build the new chart, and then I had to transplant the chart. And of course, the way I wanted to display visually on the screen was completely buggered to the way that I actually recorded the data on the spreadsheet. And so I had to make sure I'm pulling from the right column every single time for 8 different benchmarks and different things. And am I gathering the right averages? Did I make sure to exclude the one outlier because it changed the dynamic dramatically? And so I think I finished editing at 2:30 in the morning. Then I had to render the video, get it uploaded, write the description, make sure all your links are there, get it cross-posted over to Floatplane and Patreon, make sure it's scheduled, double-check the schedule, triple-check the schedule, still don't fucking trust it. And so once you've hit save changes, you go back to all three of them and go, March 4th, 6 a.m. March 4th, 6 a.m. I go back and read the email in which my NVIDIA contacts sent out at like 5 o'clock the evening before. March 4th, 6 a.m. Okay, those numbers match even at 4:30 in the morning. I know that's 90 minutes from now. Should I just stay up and wait for it? To put in all that effort and then to get 9,000 views.
Yeah.
Yeah. This game sucks sometimes.
Yeah.
I should order just more $1 BS off Wish.
Yeah. I don't know. It's funny. Like, you found like the infinite growth hack, and I have always admired you for not exploiting it. You know what I mean? Like, it takes a lot of self-control to not try to do that again.
Yeah. I mean, I've used wish.com in the title of a couple different videos.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, building a water cooling thing off Wish.
Yeah.
I tend to lean more towards AliExpress. AliExpress is at least quite a bit more of a reputable dealer than wish.com is. But you know, if you put, you know, $350 AliExpress PC, it gets some clicks. You know, people are interested in the weird and the wacky, and so, you know, you get some of that in there. But yeah, Janos, I think that's how you pronounce that. Yeah, Janos asked if I'm going to do more X99 content, maybe consider doing some like modern GPUs with an X99 board. Every time I think X99 is dead, there's another price drop and it becomes relevant again. And so there's actually been some X99 AliExpress motherboards for like $38 that include a CPU and 16 gigs of RAM. And so I'm like, we're back in the game. Like let's go again. And so, yeah, because, you know, God, everything is just so freaking expensive. But man, if I could get like a 2697, like 18 core CPU, 16 core CPU, with 16 gigs of RAM or 32 gigs in quad channel, and I'm looking at like $80. Yeah, that's a great base for a new system. Let's see what the max video card is. What video card can you put into that system before it starts CPU bottlenecking? That's a video. Especially because games more and more are using every thread available to them. So if you've got 36 threads worth of CPU compute there, it actually holds up a lot better than a 4-core 8-thread, you know, 9900K or 10900K does today. It just has more compute available to it. So, yeah. Someone said the 2697A is a solid chip. I thought I had one right in front of me. Hold on. Is that it? No. That's not it. I do have my, what is this one? 2698 V3. But no, I have a couple 2697 AV4s. I have a pair of them. They're around here somewhere. Anyway, the 9070 cards. 9070 cards are released. The 9070 at 550, and I said this a couple of weeks ago when like the specs were starting to be announced, and we got some of the first information. We had some price leaks, which one of them turned out to be accurate at 590 or 549 for the 9070. I said at the time, I hate how close in specs these cards are. And AMD just keeps freaking doing this every generation, and it never makes sense. The lower end card never makes sense. They did this with the 7800 and the 7700 XT. They were neck and neck as far as specs go, but The 9800 or 7800 was obviously like 15 to 20% faster, but only $50 more expensive. They did this with the 5700 XT, the 5700. They did this with the and then you go back to the Vega days, the Vega 56 and the Vega 64. They were what, $50 or $100 apart at retail, with the Vega 64 performing a full 20% better, and that's what we see here again today. The 9070 XT is, from all accounts on benchmarks, between 15 and 20% faster, costs $50 more. It's an absolute no-brainer. Yet AMD keeps doing this every single time, and they'll only release 2 cards, and they're that close to each other. And yeah, if the 5070 is a terrible value, and yeah, the 5070's not a great value. I mean, for the 5000 series, it's right in line with everything else. I honestly don't think it's as bad as everyone makes it out to be. My charts show it as... Actually, let me pull up my chart. I forget what exactly I had it listed as. The 5070, including the 9070 XT and the 9070 in the charts, is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It is the 12th fastest graphics card that's ever existed. It is 12th on the list of every GPU that's ever been made by man. It's 12th. It's $550. You'll forgive me if I'm slightly lenient on that. I'm upset the graphics cards are expensive as they are. I think this card should be $499, sorry, not even $499. I think this card should be $399. I think this card should be priced in line with the 1070, maybe $450. I'm upset that it costs as much as that it does, but everything costs more these days. I'm paying $8 for eggs. Yeah, everything costs more these days, and it freaking sucks. You know what? Eggs at $8 is still some of the most concentrated protein that you can get for $8. That makes it a great value. It was a way better value when it was $1.50. It doesn't take away from the value just because it's less of a value now, though.
I'm still waiting for $2 eggs.
I'm still waiting for $2 eggs again.
$2 per egg.
Yeah, I mean... If you go to a restaurant, there's a $1.50 surcharge if you order something with eggs right now. So yeah, you're already friggin' there. No, if you go to restaurants, they're not even rewriting their menus. They're just saying $1.50 surcharge if you order something with eggs. You want an egg on a burger? It's $1.50. You want scrambled eggs on the side of your potatoes? It's $1.50.
Really makes Ron Swanson look like a baller when he's like, I'll take all the eggs and bacon you have. Son, I'm afraid you might have misheard me. I said bring me all your eggs and bacon. Not a lot of eggs and bacon. Not a lot. All your eggs and bacon.
Yeah.
Most eggs come from Canada. Uh-oh.
Oh, snap.
That won't be a problem.
Yeah.
I don't read the news.
Hold on.
Canada are our friends.
Use today.
Right? Wayne Gretzky, right? Canadians, right?
Okay. So
we like him.
This is really fun. This is really fun when the numbers don't add up to the narrative. The 5070 is a terrible value. One of the worst value propositions NVIDIA's ever released, if you're to believe a lot of reviews today, right? It's the worst 70 series card of all time. It should be a 60 series card, and I do agree with that. Based on the die size and based on a lot of the cuts that they've been doing, this is kind of a 60 series card in 70 series clothing. I agree with that. Performance per dollar. And I'm talking about raw performance. It is third best. Let me explain my raw GPU performance doesn't always equate directly to frames go burr. Because there's especially when you get into higher end graphics cards, and make no mistake, the 5070 is a higher end graphics card, being the 12th fastest graphics card that's ever been made. But as far as raw GPU power goes, if you run it through benchmark numbers, if you run it through 3D Mark, and let's say both ray traced and non-ray traced, let's run it through Time Spy, and let's run it through Port Royal, and let's see where those scores land. And I'm not trying to defend the 5070 here. I don't even know why I'm on this tangent, but it feels relevant. We'll talk about the 9070 in just a second, too, because the 9070 basically scored identically to this. So whatever I'm saying about the 5070 makes sense for that card as well. As far as overall charts go, it scored a 21,039. It had a retail cost of $549. That means you're paying, you get 38.32 points per dollar that you spend. 38.2 points per dollar. The 9070 XT comes in at 47.12. The 9070 comes in at 38.27 or something like that. Slightly behind. The 5070 Ti comes in at 37.72. The 5070 comes in at 38.32, slightly above the 5070 Ti. The 5080 is 33.17. The 5090 is all the way down at 23.56. It's way faster, but it's a way worse value, and that should be very, very obvious because you can get 40% of the performance, but for 1/4 the cost, which means the 5070 is a better value than the 5090, right? Like that makes sense when you actually put numbers to it. The 38.32 puts it third on the all-time list, shy only to the 6750 GRE 12GB and the 9070 XT. It's the third best value that's ever existed as far as performance per dollar, raw compute performance per dollar. But we're upset that it's $550, and we're upset that there's graphics cards that are faster, so it's the worst value that NVIDIA's ever put forward. Weird.
You've nailed the mindset of the average PC Master Race commenter.
Yeah. There's no such thing as a bad card, only bad pricing. Well, yes, there was. The 970 was a bad card because it only had 3.5 gigs. That's revisionist history. The 9070 was still a great card so long as you were only using 3.5 gigs of memory. It had an issue. It wasn't a bad card. It was one of the most popular cards on Steam for 5 years. Well, the 3070 is a bad card because it only has 8 gigs of memory. I tested a 3070. It failed to run one game. I just did it with a 9800 X3D. It failed to run at ultra performance one game. Is it a terrible value? No. It's not what we want to spend right now because $550 is a lot of money right now. $550 buys you PS5. Which one are you going to be happier with? Yeah. This is why it's so hard to be in this game.
Yeah.
The numbers don't always align with what you think they will. By the way, the reason I have all these numbers is I am planning on doing a video on this. This is actually part of my reviewing old graphics cards, looking at some very commonly used high percentage numbers on the Steam hardware survey. The 4060 actually just overtook the 3060 12 gig as the most popular card on Steam this month. Two of the most hated graphics cards of all time, if you listen to reviewers, are the two most popular cards because they're $299 and people can buy them.
I mean, and the truth about numbers is that is that they can mean anything,
Mm-hmm.
like without the context that you apply. You know what I mean? And like I think that's the weird I think that's the part of you know, technology enthusiasm that generates the most heat.
Yeah.
And we saw this a lot, like over the last 5 years. Like statistics can mean almost whatever you want them to mean, unless you have the appropriate context for how these numbers were collected. That's why when you're looking at actual data, they include um, a lot of like qualitative data about sample,
Mm-hmm.
sample sizes, sample size. What the hell am I talking about? Like a lot of extra data about how and when and where and why this data was collected. Because without that, it could be used to say whatever you want it to say.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
so, looking at it the way that you're looking at it and applying a new context, that's an extra layer. That's so great.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what a lot of people get hung up on is they go, well, numbers mean anything. So I'm just going to look at the big number. You know, I'm going to look at the biggest number. I'm going to look at the biggest data point, and I'm not going to look at anything else. Because otherwise it gets messy,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Um, Lord Chariot says, I don't trust the Steam hardware survey. It doesn't report my system correctly. It thinks I have an A-speed GPU, but it's a Threadripper with a 3090. That's because you have an IPMI port on there, and it does report both GPUs, but it thinks your A-speed is your primary GPU. They will still get the data that you have a 3090 installed on your GPU, or installed as a GPU. And you being an outlier that doesn't report correctly, they understand that. And there's always going to be 5% of garbage data. You know what you do with garbage data? You throw it away or you figure out why it's garbage.
Yeah. I
For
mean, most
years,
surveys are always built with a margin of error, right?
the last time, this was almost 8 years ago now, 7.5 years ago. The reason I'm doing all this research for this video is I'm looking at what is the average PC? What does the average gamer play on when they're playing PC games? And that was one of my most popular early videos, is I did the average PC based on Steam hardware surveys. I got heat for that video because, well, you're not considering that China has a lot of like web arcades and like where they use nothing but like 750 Ti's in there, and so that just has like an abnormally high percentage on the Steam hardware survey. Number one, no, it didn't. Number two, yeah, it was popular in China in a lot of like come in and sit down, arcade, PC arcade things. You know who else it was popular with? Budget gamers who built their own PCs themselves. Do you know how many 750 Ti's I personally put into the market from built computers? I probably bought 40 of them.
Well, when you're looking at the Steam hardware data too, I mean, can you sort it by geography? Is that an option?
No,
Like it
no, they
feels
don't give any geostats.
Okay.
But sorry, I can't share this window because it's still just on my Google Drive.
No problem.
But I've got 68 GPUs in my inventory, or in my sheet right now. With their Steam hardware survey density numbers, how many are actually deployed and in use according to the hardware survey. I've also tabulated their average scores according to 3D Mark of Time Spy and Port Royal to get an idea of DirectX 12 and ray tracing performance. I've got all of their original launch MSRPs, and then I have the performance per dollar for both Port Royal and for Time Spy of all 68 of those GPUs. And I haven't done Intel yet because Intel didn't show up on the Steam hardware survey as having a market share, but I'm going to include those in the survey, or in my metrics as well. Someone asked about the 7900 XTX. Where does that rate in your chart? I will tell you, it's not great. It's a really high performing card. The reason people think it's such a great value card is it was way better value than the 4080 or the 4090. but it's not a great value when you compare it to, I don't know, an $800 graphics card. Because remember, the 7900 XTX is $1,000. That was its original MSRP, was $999. If we compare it to something like the 3080 Ti, yeah, it's twice as good. My number for the 7900 XTX is 30.54. 30.54 times by points per dollar versus the 3080 Ti got 16.37. It's almost half. Okay. Do you know what almost tied the 7900 XTX? The 3070. One of the most hated graphics cards of all time because it only has 8 gigs of VRAM, and it was $500 when the previous 2 generations were $399. And why is it so expensive? And da 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 da. Still a great performing card, and you know what? Performs pretty well. Do you know what also almost tied it at 29.34? The 3060 Ti. Do you know what beats it? The 4060 at 35.50. The 4060 is a better value, performance per dollar wise, than the 7900 XTX. It's really funny seeing all of these like crowd favorites falling further down the list than you'd expect, and all of the, well, that video card isn't even worth the silicon it's pressed with, coming in like 4th on my chart. And all I'm doing is crunching numbers. I'm just letting my numbers do the talking.
Are the people that make those types of comments actually even playing games, though?
I don't know.
I feel like they don't have time with all the commenting that they're doing.
You would think.
It's like the people that are actually playing games don't have time for that, right? I mean,
right.
You're having fun, living your life. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting too personal in these broadside attacks here, but
yeah, it's so funny. I've talked about this before, and actually, Nerd on a Budget. Danny. Let's talk about Danny for a second. Danny, I haven't responded to you. If you're watching, hello. I got your email this week. He's working on a video, and I'm not sure, I doubt this is public knowledge yet, so I'm going to spoil just a little bit, but he asked a bunch of us for our unpopular takes this last week. I haven't had a chance to respond yet. I don't know if I'm going to be able to have time to do a video, but obviously I've had some hot takes in the gaming industry over the years. One hot take that I have that is based upon some of the things that I've said before. I believe reviewers simply eliminating bottlenecks and presenting that as their objective data, and then subjectively judging a card based on how they think it fits in the margins, I don't think is the only way to review a graphics card or a CPU or whatever else. Because a review, by definition, is a subjective opinion. You can put nuance into it. You can say, the numbers say this, but I feel a different way. You can also test different ways. Obviously, I've had some pretty hot, what I didn't think are that hot of a take, but apparently some very hot takes on what I'm even allowed to do with my graphics card when I'm putting it on my test bench and what numbers I report in a subjective review of a hardware product based on whether or not I'm going to recommend you to buy it or not. Isn't that why you're watching me? To get my opinion? But
no.
But an extension of that opinion is becoming more and more on the forefront of my brain. And that is hardware reviews, specifically talking about graphics, are going to get way more subjective. And in fact, we're already kind of there. Because both Nvidia and AMD have obviously been pushing AI integrations. In the gaming space, that means You'll have characters that can converse with you in real time without having scripts and spoken dialogue, pre-recorded. They can interpret what their characters' objectives and motivations are in that moment, and then reply to you in real time. That's a really cool implementation of AI. It didn't work all that well when I tried it, but it's a great idea, and I'd like to see that bear some fruit. There's other aspects that are coming into play, but the ones that are applied to gaming right now is obviously AI upsampling, that is rendering at a lower resolution and upsampling to a higher resolution to get a higher quality picture, and frame generation, frame interpolation. If you want to review a graphics card simply on frames go burr, you're going to be missing some of the point of some of these new technologies. And we've already seen some of that from reviewers who completely ignore DLSS and or frame generation, and even down to ray tracing. People ignored ray tracing for years, when ray tracing was a valid thing that people turned on and played with. But we're so concerned about how fast a GPU can possibly render my frames. That's not what I care about when I'm playing games. What I care about is, number one, the game that I'm playing. How good of a game is it? Part of that is, and a section of that is the delivery of that game. How is it presented on screen? What's the visual quality? What's the art style? What's everything that went into the process of not only making this game, but publishing this game, how it's delivered to me, how many launchers I have to launch from Steam, and then the Ubisoft thing comes up, and then you've also got to log into this thing. It's part of my experience. And then, how is it rendered, and how good of an experience is it? As we're getting more and more into AI-generated technology, visual quality is going to be a subjective measure, much more of a subjective measure. And this actually takes us back to the early 2000s and late 90s, when every graphics manufacturer had their own API on how they rendered graphics. There was DirectX, but there was also Glide, there was also OpenGL, there was proprietary engines. Creative made graphics cards in the early 90s, for God's sake. And you know what? When we reviewed graphics cards, you reviewed how fast it rendered a certain game, but you also had to test that game on an Nvidia card with DirectX 5, and then on an AMD card with OpenGL, and then on a 3DFX card with Glide. And they rendered completely differently, and you said, well, it's faster on Glide, but it looks better on DirectX. Guess what? That's a subjective opinion. And as we're reviewing DLSS, and as we're looking at graphical anomalies and frame generation and all the other things that go into it, we're going to start reviewing much more subjectively. Because one of the last things that matters is how many frames are rendered. It's one of the last things that actually matters.
Preaching to the choir over here.
Oh, I know. But yeah.
I mean, my favorite games they've never
Required, graphical powerhouses.
Well, you still play Morrowind.
You know what?
So. Buzzing.
Well.
Sorry, someone just said the RTX 30 or the RTX 5090 isn't even Green. Hi Green. I'm going to call you out. The RTX 5090 isn't even twice as powerful, isn't even 2x the performance of the 3080. You are wrong. In fact, the 5090, let's just go time spy and ray tracing. Let's just go the two metrics that I have right in front of me. It has a time spy score of 47,098, 47,100. The next closest card is the 4090, which has a 36,327. It's 11,000 point differential. between the number 1 and the number 2 spot. And that's also a 32% differential between the two cards. The 3090 is a $19,899. So my quick math says that's already more than double of the 3090. Let's see, 47,100 divided by 19,900. It is 136% faster, 236% of the actual performance. It's 2.36 times faster than a 3090. The 3080 is a 17,662. It's about 2.5 times. Is it 2.5 times the frames generated? Not necessarily. But yeah. Hold on one sec. Yeah. So yeah, no, it is 2.5 times faster than the 3080. It's 2.3 times faster than the 3090. It's 32% faster than the 4090.
He says in games it's closer to 150%, Jeff.
Uh-huh. When we get a CPU that can keep up, let me know. CPUs are lagging way behind, and that's even with the massive leaps we've had in like 4 years of CPU performance. GPU is way outpacing CPU as far as development goes. As far as raw, I mean, just raw flops and computation performance. They are way out in front. But I guess that's all to say. Value is a subjective thing. The numbers don't agree today. Well, they agree with the 9070 XT. Absolutely. That is the best value graphic. That is the most performance per dollar graphics card that's ever been launched, and it's not even close. The 9070 XT on my chart has a 47.12 points per MSRP at $599. It is the only graphics card that's even over 40. The next highest is pretty much a tie between the 7700 XT and the 5070 and the 9070. Like all three of those are right in the 38.5 range. Interestingly enough, the 9070 XT also the only graphics card that has exceeded 30 points in Port Royal per MSRP. The next closest is 27. So yeah. It's expensive right now. Everything's expensive right now. It doesn't mean we're not getting a return. And again, this isn't to prop up the 5070. I don't necessarily like the 5070. I'm really disappointed that the difference in performance is that great between the 5070 and the 5070 Ti and the 5080. Typically, you've gotten, you know, 5070 to a 5080 or 5070 to a 5070 Ti. It's 15 to 20% differential for maybe $100 difference. Now it's $150 difference, but it's 25%, 27, 30% differential. In fact, value-wise, they're almost identical. 37.72 on the 5070 Ti versus a 38.32 on the 5070. It's because it's 27% less expensive, but also 27% less performant by the numbers. They're almost identical. But we really like the 5070 Ti, I guess. Because it got 80 FPS instead of 60. at 1440 Ultra, I guess. But when you run the numbers, it's not that much better. Or it's no worse. It's simply slower. So, yeah. 9070 XT, definitely the card to get. Don't count out the 4060, though. 4060 is sneaky good. I have finished my first beer.
Well done.
Yes. I mean, I have the whole third of a growler left if I wanted to keep going. But, I've got one that's a little hotter, shall we say. This is from Evil Twin Brewing.
I like Evil Twin. Drank in the first ever episodes of Talking Heads, by the way.
Was it Evil Twin?
Well, Evil Twin was, yeah.
Really?
I think so.
I don't. This is from Connecticut.
We had I think it was called like Yin and Yang or something like that.
Was it? Okay.
It was like yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
The
Could
first,
be wrong, but I think so.
The first beer I ever opened on Craft Computing was a brewery that doesn't exist anymore. It was Belgian Underground, Amari Secret. It was the Secret Army. The Belgian Strong Ale. God, that was so good. And John and I talked about it a couple weeks ago. Obviously, I know the brewer. He's offered me the recipe before. So
yeah.
If there's ever a Craft Computing beer, it'll probably be that. That'll probably be the first one that I brew.
The brewer is a school teacher in my town, so like,
yeah, I know. I know who it is. You know who it is. Yeah.
By the way, okay, I could be wrong about this. I'd have to go look, but the first Talking Heads episode, I think we had a Yin and Yang, which is a black and tan.
Okay.
Evil Twin.
What did I drink? Because was that yours or was that mine?
I thought we had the same thing.
Did we have the same? We might have had the same thing. Okay, then.
Because whoops! Oh God, Brandon Sanderson's yelling at me.
Great memory though, because I don't remember that. I don't remember the first Talking Heads beer.
It was because we did it
at John's, right?
At John's,
yeah.
And it was like one of those things. Like I remember, like you had the key. We went in, and he goes, "Don't worry, he won't mind." We like poured some beers, and I remember like there was some level of confusion about what the beer was, and John corrected us, but I'm pretty sure it was still, when all said and done, it was still a Yin and Yang. Okay. By Evil Twin Brewing.
That's right. I do remember some confusion over the beer, over what it actually was. Someone who was that just asked me, what are the top 5 cards on your list? That depends on the generation, because again, if you just think about this logically, oh my God, look at this beer. Look how dark that is on a thin pour.
Ooh, that looks good.
My God. What are the top 5 cards on your list? If you think about this logically, based on performance in 3D Mark per dollar, when you leap up a generation in graphics card, it's going to be a better performance per dollar metric than the previous generation at the same MSRP. If you jump up 20% at the same MSRP, it's 20% better value for the same price, right? Like that's just logically how that works. And so the 5070, I have Ada and Blackwell, so that's 4000 and 5000 plus 7000 and 9000 AMD in the same chart. I consider those within close enough generation that they're in the same chart. The worst 2 on the list are obviously the 4080 and the 4090. The most expensive cards are always the worst values. Or typically the worst values. In fact, let me sort this by... Let me resort my data here. Advanced, that is column T. There we go. Obviously the best value card this generation so far is the 9070 XT. The 5070 is actually the tops of the 5000 series at 38.32, but all of them are kind of in that same range. The 5070 Ti is a 37.72. The 4060 is one of the highest on the charts, as well as the 7700 XT. So your sub $500 graphics cards are two of the best, and the 4070 Super is doing work there as well. 4070 Super is my pick for the best value of the last generation, within a couple of percentage points, as the best value card, best performance for the best price. Even though the 4060 outdoes it slightly, but the 4060, great card at $299. And then the 7700 XT is slightly better than both of those. So 7700 XT, 4060, and 4070 Super. That's what I would put as the last generation's best. Looking back at Ampere, that's 3000 series Nvidia and 6000 series AMD. The 6750 GRE and the 6800 XT are leaps and bounds better than everything else. The 3060 Ti is kind of right behind them, though. Again, like one of those cards that everyone loves to hate because it's like $399 for a 60 series. I'm not paying that. You know what? Frames per dollar. That's your winner. That's your winner. Yeah, and then kind of a couple more spots down the chart. You've got the 3070, the 6700 XT, and the 3060. All kind of right there in like this jumbled middle. But yeah, 6800 XT or 3060 Ti if you're looking for best value, or 6750 GRE if you can find one. But those are typically Eastern market cards. They're China cards, and so there'll be a lot of your Colorful and your Galax and brands like that. I don't think MSI or Gigabyte or Asus have the GRE cards. If we go back to Turing and 5000 series. So that's your 2000 series Nvidia and your 5000 series AMD. Guess what the number one card is? Can anyone guess what the number one value card is? I'll give you guys some time. This also includes 1600 series Nvidia GTX cards. So your GTX, your 1660, 1650, and your 2060, 2070, 2080, and then your 5500 XT, 5600 XT, 5700, 5700 XT. Anyone guess what the best card from that generation is? Performance per dollar. One and only says 5800. John J says 1650. 5700 XT from Patrick. RTX 2060. 1660 Ti says Skull. Novella Hub says running a 1650 Super right now. 5800 XT. So that's a second vote on that. 5700 XT. Another vote on that. Novella. 1650 Super. With a score of 29.52. Followed by the 5500 XT, the 5600 XT, the 1660 Super, the 1660, the 1650, and then the 5700 XT at 23.62, so a full 6 points behind the 1650 Super. 1660 Ti, 2060 Super, 2060, 2070 Super, 2070, 2080 Super, 2080, 2080 Ti. 2080 Ti at half the value at 14.67 to the 1650 Super. You know what I noticed there? The cards that everyone hates are up on top and the cards that everyone loves are down below. As far as value goes. 1650 Super is the best value graphics card of the Ampere, or of the Turing and 5000 generation. 1650 Super. Gets you more points per dollar than anything else. So when I declared the 1650 the value king of this generation, just saying, maybe I was onto something. No, the 1010. Actually, you know what? I don't have the 1030 on my chart. I deleted the 1030 off my chart. Oh, that's a Pascal series card. Oh no, the 1030's on there. You know what's interesting? The 1030 lost to the 1080 Ti as far as value goes. Now, that's $1,000 versus $100, and that's not even including the DDR4 variant of the 1030, which was way worse. But yeah, no, the 1030 lost to the 1080 Ti. You know what else lost to the 1080 Ti? The 1060. Maxwell and Pascal and Polaris, the winner's pretty easy. It's the RX 570. Followed by the 1070 Ti, the 1050 Ti, and the RX 580. Like, that's an easy generation to guess. But yeah, not everything is where you would place it as far as value per dollar goes. But then again, value per dollar is a terrible metric because you're talking about cards that are not in the same budget range. You're talking about, well, if I spend $1,400, I get 7 more frames per dollar than if I buy this $300 card. Yeah, that's how performance works. A Toyota Camry has way more horsepower per dollar than a Ferrari 599. But if you got Ferrari 599 money, you're buying a Ferrari. Like,
speak for yourself.
Or you're the doctor who still drives an 87 Camry. Actually, we had a family friend growing up. We used to go over and every Tuesday night, me and my mom would go play cards with this family, and they he was a doctor for 30 years, had a really nice house in the hills, obviously making pretty good money. His daily driver was an 88 Nissan Pulsar. That's what he drove every single day.
I mean, you don't get to have a house in the hills if you're buying a Ferrari. Right.
I mean, there were people around him who had Ferraris and had cars like that. But no, the car parked out in front of his house, 88 Nissan Pulsar.
Good for him.
Yeah.
That's that true Oregonian spirit right there.
Mm-hmm. If you really want to spend more money, get into the retro Amiga scene. Yes, I know. There are some areas of technology esoterica that I just flat out avoid because I can't control myself. Retro computing is one. Like, I love retro computing. I don't have the budget for it.
And it's actually... Oops.
No.
Hey, by the way, I looked it up. You were drinking... Oh, shit. Something by Four Hands Brewing? Four Hands Brewing? Does that sound right? Does that sound like a brewing company?
No.
It's a red ale... aged in saison.
Oh,
something like that. Of course, I only have the closed caption.
That's right. No. It was a barrel-aged saison, not aged in saison.
Right. Okay. Barrel-aged saison. Oh, a base camp. You say I'm having a base camp. I'm just reading the closed captioning, by the way. So
no. We got the first episode, both of us butchered the beers. I remember that vividly because John was furious with us.
Well, to be fair, that's probably true. But I did drink a yin and yang from Evil Twin Brewery.
Yeah, we did figure that one out.
I drank that.
Four Hands is a brewery in St. Louis, Missouri. And so, yeah.
So there you go. You had a base camp from Four Hands.
Which is a barrel-aged saison. Okay.
Yeah. You said it's a red ale double, actually, and it's aged in saison barrels. Quite delicious.
Yeah, I misspoke when I was talking about the beer, which John called me out on. And I went, yeah, I'm nervous as hell being live on camera for the first time in my life. Like, yeah, I said the beer. I said a lot of things wrong in that episode.
Yeah, it's Oh, I thought that would show a better color of the beer you were drinking.
Yeah, no.
Not well, but anyway. Wait. Here we go. Because remember, we used to have 2 camera angles.
Yeah, that's right. We carried that for quite a while.
Yeah, we did.
I had the main camera, and then I had a webcam off to the side, and eventually that became 2 full cameras, and then I went, screw it, that's not worth my time, and so it went back to a webcam for a while. Yeah.
Classic. Anyway, sorry. You mentioning Evil Twin Brewing.
I did not remember your first one was Evil Twin. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know quite how I settled on that. Maybe you picked it for me. I don't know. But apparently it was 10%, by the way, which is just, it's a struggle for me to recall what my tolerance level used to be at. Because like 10%, yeah, sure.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I drank one of these electric surfboards last time I was on, and then I had like another like 12-ounce beer that was maybe 8 or 9%.
Yeah.
Wasted after the show. Just wasted after the show. This week I wised up. I'm drinking a ginger mule polar.
Oh, nice. I've had that one.
You know, they're so good.
By the way, I never actually fully announced the beer. It is an Evil Twin Brewing, out of North Haven, Connecticut. And it is the Christmas Eve at a New York hotel room. Royal Sweet Edition. 12% Imperial Stout with marshmallow, coconut, vanilla, and cocoa nibs. This is legit one of the darkest beers I have ever poured. Novella just chimed in with a membership chat. 54 months, thank you. Beating Jeff tonight, my Evil Twin Molotov Cocktail Triple IPA is a 12% from John J. We're tied technically at 12%, but God, I do love a good triple IPA. Anyway, we do have a couple super chats, and then we do have some more news to get to.
Believe it or not.
We spent an hour talking about graphics cards and reviews and things like that, which is always interesting.
'Tis the season.
Yeah.
'Tis the season.
Yeah. But remember, when you're watching reviews are subjective. And it's up to the reviewer to understand their own bias. And it's up to you to understand reviewers may have bias. But my numbers say, we need to obviously wait for the rest of this generation to settle out and, revisions to be made and everything else. But at the prices that graphics cards are selling at right now, 5070, right in line with everything else. So is the 9070, as much as we might hate it. And the lower end cards, the 4060 of the world, they're not that bad. Maybe give them a shot. You don't have to spend $1,000 on a graphics card to play games, as you will soon see. Although, ironically enough, my next video is me cramming a 5090 into the smallest case possible, so. Brandon sends over a $5 super chat. Thank you so much. 6 months ago, the 4070 Super was readily in stock for $600 to $650. Now, when in stock, the similar performing 5070 is $750 plus. Isn't that the real issue here? The issue here is, yes, absolutely, unavailability and price hikes on everything. My value proposition is again stating the MSRP of the cards, and that's been disingenuous since the 3000 series, when crypto mining started taking all the cards and they were completely unavailable, and then shortages and then COVID and then everything else that has happened all during this whole span of 4 to 5 years. There's been a lot of things that have absolutely with pricing across the board. And it's not just graphics cards, but everything is more expensive. But yeah, you're right. The 4070 Super, which is a virtual tie, maybe 5% slower than the 5070. I never once saw the 4070 Super at. Well, that's right. It was $599 retail. You could get it easily for between $600 and $650. That's right. You're right. It was in stock. I haven't seen pricing on the 5070. I didn't even bother looking today. Let's see if anyone has them. I doubt it, but we'll look. Nope. Not there. Actually, I don't know why I'm looking on that browser. Let's look on this browser so I can actually show you if one comes up in stock. Micro Center. RTX 5070. Let's look. Hey, 5070 Ti for $909. Let's go. 0 items available to ship. See all 36 items at Micro Center. And let's go ahead and sort by lowest price. And let's see what happens. 549, 549, 549, 549, 549. There's a whole bunch in stock, 549. Which makes it a better value by $100 than the 4070 Super does. Even the 599 price does. 599, 599, 599. These are all in stock right now. They're not sold out. So now when you start getting into the $670 for the MSI Gaming Trio and the Gigabyte OC, and you know, that's just a BIOS difference, and $699, $719. God, screw you guys. Screw. No cooler is worth $200. Go
Speak for yourself.
Every one of these for over $700, literally go yourself. Every goddamn one of you. You've now priced this at the price of the higher tier card. You are $200 premium. Nothing's worth that. Although this is also the burden that Nvidia brought upon themselves when they started underpricing their own manufactured cards and the Founder Series cards and began directly competing with their board partners and not giving their board partners enough margin to actually make a profit. So the board partners have to raise the prices. But no, there are multiple cards in stock at Micro Center right now for $549 and even $600 and under. So while your point does carry some weight, not all the cards are $750. It definitely carries some weight for the 5070 Ti at $950. That's an awful value. Let me see, 5070 Ti. That drops the 5070 Ti as far as value from a 37.72 to a 29.77. 29.77 puts it below the 4070 Super Ti, but not by much. 4070 Ti Super is 30.31. The 4070 Super is 28.50. It puts it below the 4070 at 32.48, but it's not that much drastically below the last generation cards as far as value goes, even at $949 as far as frames and raw performance per dollar. Do I want to spend $950 on a card with a 7 in front of it? No. It's a 70 series card that should be sub $500. I don't care who you are or what market you're in. But the market we're in right now is $950 or $750 MSRP. Green sends over $5. Thank you so much. You mentioned AliExpress. Likelihood of building out an F8D Plus with dual Xeons? 0%. The only reason I would do a dual 2011 V3 board at this point would be to do something really stupid with virtual gaming, but I don't I'll be honest with you, I don't have the $700 to sink into a stupid project right now. I don't see the return on YouTube right now. So my fun money is evaporated. Maybe a 6 gamers, 1 server. Yeah, I'm looking into doing similar content videos, but I'm not actually going to build the full server out. Green, you know, I bought recently a W5500 and a WX 5100. I am going to put those into my server, and I'm going to recommend you know, spinning up a VM and running Bazzite with Sunshine on it and doing like a VM gaming machine with a dedicated pass-through graphics card. It's a single slot graphics card. The WX5100 doesn't need ancillary power, so you can slot it into any board that you have that's running a server OS. Give it 4 cores and 8 threads, or even 6 cores, 6 threads. You know, 12 gigs of RAM. Get yourself a nice little solid 1080p virtual gaming machine for what, $60 for the graphics card? Solid add in capability for a server that you might already be running out in your home lab. But I'm not going to do the full build. It doesn't make sense. Nor would I ever recommend someone do that full build today. I know you're crazy enough to do it, Green, and I appreciate that about you. And there are times that I'm crazy enough to do it. But not right now. Because everything else is really expensive right now. The one and only says, you won't believe what the cheapest 5070 costs in my country. Just checked a second ago. It's €929, meaning about $1,000, and that's for the non-TI. Yeah, that's awful. Local Micro Center had a 5090 earlier today for $2,700. Yeah, that's awful. You can blame whatever board partner decided to put a $700 premium on their card. No cooler is worth $700. That's all dealer markup. Remember when you went shopping for cars in 2020 and it said base price $47,000 and then it said dealer markup $22,000? Suddenly it's a $69,000 car. Yeah, that's what a $2,700 5090 is. There ain't no cooler or BIOS hack that you can do that costs $700. If this had a graham cracker, it would be a s'more. I feel like dipping graham crackers in this. Like, that's how much marshmallow and creamy yet dark chocolate.
Yeah.
Like it does have like the marshmallow fluff on top and then the dark chocolate roast, right? You know, underneath it.
Sounds great.
There's 2 paradigms of beer going on right now, and I love them both. Zach says 4 gamers on an 4 gamers, 1 EL8000. Well, I don't have any 4000 ADAs available to me, you know, so, but I hear someone might be able to loan me both, so maybe we'll see content like that. Are you still using the Asus G3 ESC 4000? I still have the server. It's not currently in my rack. I did build that out as a proof of concept, and actually I wanted to use it for a GPU test rig, but then right after I built that server, AMD sent me a couple Genoa processors, and especially as we're getting newer and newer into the graphics card scene, it feels really weird to put a Tesla P40 into a Genoa server. Like there's a dynamic there that just doesn't make sense in my brain. No one would ever pair those things together. It's not home lab accessible, nor is it data center deployable. Like, in no conversation has everyone ever put those 2 pieces together. I did, but that's because that's all I had. So yeah, I do still have the ESC 4000. I've been debating what to do with it. I do need to run. I've been meaning to do this for like 6 months. So I obviously have the 2 NVIDIA A5000s that have vGPU unlock on them. 2 PDX lands ago, I was also given a pair of Tesla V100s, Volta generation cards, which is the after Pascal, but not Turing, because Turing was the cut down version of Volta, but with the RT cores added. So Volta's like the ultimate GTX card with tensor cores. That has vGPU unlocked on it. So I've been meaning to get those into a system and start testing them. But then again, I have the Genoa system sitting right there, so why wouldn't I just test them in that? Yeah, it's complicated. Yeah. Anyway. 5070 in stock. $549.
Boom.
It's $50 less than a 4070 Super and about 5% faster. If you were looking at a 4070 Super, I don't think it's any worse value than that was. It's not a leap forward by any means, but it is a better value. If you were going to buy a 4070 Super yesterday, this is a better value today than that was. The 4070 Super was a great value, but that was the last generation. This is the new generation. The new generation is supposed to go faster, right? Well, this isn't the Super card. This is the 4070 or 5070. And it's still faster and it's less money. Is it really the worst thing we've ever seen? No. I'm not going to say value king. I'm not going to go 1650 on it. But the 1650 didn't deserve the hate it got. The 3070 didn't deserve the hate it gets. It's a graphics card. Do you want to play games at this resolution? That's the cost of entry right now for that level of performance. Make of that what you will. We now have 17 minutes to get through like 6 more stories. I'm done talking about graphics cards. Even though our viewership continues to go up. That's amazing. So thank you all for joining.
Everybody wants to talk about graphics cards.
At 6:40, we hit 200 viewers, and my chart has just been a steady increasing line since then. So thank you all for clicking and watching. That's been fun. I'm glad that my contrary popular opinions haven't driven you away yet. I'm waiting for your MSA2 build. I'm waiting for the MSA2 as well, because holy crap, I'm excited for that. That's gonna be fun when that gets here. Especially because I hear the 9800X 3D is on the horizon. Oh, can you imagine a downclocked 9800X 3D in that chassis? Oh no, that's the 7945HX. That's right. That's what that one is. That's not the socketed. Although, Minis Forums did just announce they now have the 7945HX 3D in an ITX motherboard for $499. I may have to beg, borrow, and steal one of those. I'm just going to connect my CRT to my on my 6600 and play 800 by 600 or 1024 by 720. Yeah. I love how everyone says. I love how everyone says you can't even play modern games on the 5070. Yet the Steam Deck sells millions of units.
I play a lot of games on the Steam Deck.
Yeah. I mean, to put this into context, it took 2 years of me receiving handhelds for review for one handheld to finally supplant the Steam Deck. And that's despite being twice as fast as the Steam Deck. Like, I got a lot of different handhelds, and none of them were as comfortable or played as smoothly as the Steam Deck did at 800p resolution with a 4-core CPU. Maybe it's not all about frames go burr, guys. Maybe it's about the overall experience. Maybe it's a little bit more subjective than we've been trying to make it for years. Maybe it's more than numbers do the talking. Just saying. AMD, speaking of APUs, AMD, we're right on the heels of the Strix Halo, like, soft launch. Like, Strix Halo is out there in a couple different form factors, but it's not, like, in the form factors that I want or I can get yet, and so I'm waiting on bated breath to finally get Strix Halo in for review, because I can't freaking wait for 16 cores, 32 threads of Zen 4 with 40 compute units of RDNA 3.5. God, I can't wait to review that. However, right on the heels of this soft launch is AMD's next generation Medusa Halo APU, which, God, I freaking love that name. Medusa Halo Zen 6, rumored with 5070 Ti levels of gaming performance.
Wow.
Based on today's desktop reviews of the 9070 XT, you could just say 9070 XT levels of performance. They're going to put 16 cores and 38 threads along with 48 compute units, which is actually, that's going to be shy. I didn't see the compute unit count until literally just now. 48 compute units. RDNA 4 with 56 compute unit in a desktop package with 220 watt TDP barely scored a 5070. You're telling me 48 at a lower TDP is going to beat the 5070 Ti, which is what the 9070 XT did with 64 compute units? No. It's going to be good. It's not going to be that good. I don't know where they got this. Offering 5070 to 5070 Ti levels? No, it's going to be like 5060 Ti levels of performance. Still very, very good. Oh, and also, it's not 16 cores and 32 threads. It's 24 cores and 48 threads. 24 cores. 24 cores. Yeah. I've still been pitching to AMD, and every time I see them, I'm going to pitch the same. Now that you're making APUs, now that you're seriously making APUs, could you give us an 8-core with 48 compute units? For my gaming system, I don't need 24 cores. I don't need 16 cores. I barely need 12 cores. I don't need... Give me an 8-core APU with 40 compute units or 32 compute units. Cut your silicon costs down. You're already on chiplets. Go full bore with this and take one of them off for me. I don't need that second chiplet for the CPU. I don't need it. Give me 8 cores, 16 threads, and in a mobile platform, even that is overkill. And 32 compute units of RDNA 4. That's the chip that I want. That's the chip that gamers need. Still has one of the best names of all time, though. Like, Medusa's up there with Battle Mage and Celestia from Intel's code names. Like, Medusa's a good code name.
They playing too much Dota too. They're like, here we go, time to drop Dusa in there. Trying to get that split shot off. Stone gaze.
Yep.
Turn the enemies to dust.
What? Green chimes in $5. Thank you so much again. I mentioned the Steam Deck. My OG VM system was close to 5x Steam Deck spec. The Haswell box that he built with WX 4100s or RX 550-ish performance. 720p to 920 to 900p on everything. Yeah. Yeah, the WX 4100, WX 3100. Hold on, I had one here. Where did that go? Oh, it's not there anymore. I moved to another desk. Yeah, I've got a 2100, a 3100, and now a 5100. I don't have the 41, but yeah, the 4100 or 5100 shares the same exact compute die as the RX 550 desktop chip. Is it the greatest GPU that's ever been made? No. It's only got... The 5100, though, does have 8 gigs of VRAM. And so it's not going to be VRAM limited in a lot of games, which is where the RX 550 struggled. Even at 1080p, it was starting to struggle with only 4 gigs. But 8 gigs, 1080p gaming, 1080p medium. Dude, that thing will blow the Steam Deck out of the water. And if you're looking for just like setting up a VM and getting yourself like an Xbox controller hooked to your phone and you want to play AAA games with it, if you've got a virtual machine, tossing a $60 GPU in there and being able to play games on your phone or stream to a MacBook or whatever else, freaking premium setup. WTF, this live stream crashed? No, I think it's just you. Me as well? I'm still streaming. I still see myself live. Coffee and Cynicism says, isn't that Medusa Rapids? No, I think technically it'd be Medusa Ridge. Medusa
That's
Ridge.
what somebody already said that up there.
Yeah. Oh, Zach said Medusa Ridge. There it is. Yakto, you got it. Okay, everyone's saying stream is fine for me. No interrupts here. Good. Okay. So it's just a couple of people. We already talked about the MSI, but the MSRP thing. One of my other stories was MSI is removing all of their RTX 5000 series MSRP boards from the shelves so they can raise prices on them like everyone else is doing. Because of course they are. Now MSI has taken the strays from this, but every GPU manufacturer is doing this. No one wanted to launch a GPU at MSRP, especially Asus, who had their 5070 Ti priced at $899 when Nvidia seeded those to reviewers and said, "Oh yeah, that's an MSRP card, $749." And we all had to get clarification on that. And then, like 0 hour on Tuesday, all of the narrative changed and went, "Oh yeah, no, that's $749. Micro Center must have gotten that wrong, not the information that we told them." Oops. Yeah. So the pricing situation sucks.
And it will forever. Going forward.
But here's the deal. If you have a problem with the price, don't buy it. It's a really simple equation, people.
So obvious for some, yet so difficult.
Yeah. And I'm not even saying that from an elitist standpoint. I'm saying that from a vote with your wallet standpoint. I'm saying if something is too expensive, I just talked about that with an AliExpress motherboard. Going like, I'm not going to build that system out. That sounds really cool. There was a time in my life I absolutely would have. There was a time in computing life when I think it was a little bit more relevant, like 5 years ago. Yeah, I'm not going to spend the money on that right now. I don't have the money for that right now.
That's
Being
like
brutally honest,
a lot of time.
I've got a lot of money floating in Axe Effect in OpenViro, which should have been here today, and I'll have to wait till tomorrow to get. But microphone keeps changing.
Yeah, I've noticed that on my end too.
Have
but
you?
It's only been like maybe 3 times since we've started, but it gets
Weird.
really quiet when it gets and then it just comes right back on.
That's weird.
Yeah, one of the times I assumed that you noticed it, and because it looked like you were like adjusting something, but
Oh.
yeah, that could have just been my imagination.
No,
or whatever,
I
but-
haven't adjusted the mic at all. My mic is kind of a set it and forget it. It's a Focusrite
Yeah.
Scarlett 2i2. Like, it's one of the best interfaces that you can get.
Yeah. Yeah, my guess is because yours would be going through there. I don't know. It reminds me of an issue. See, the difference though is that it happens while you're talking. See, I used to have this issue where
Interesting.
some programs would take control of my mic's volume when I wasn't talking, and it'd be like, oh shoot, he's not talking. We may as well change his volume now. And then I'd start talking and be like, oh crap, and it would have to like readjust. It's not that's not what's happening to you necessarily, but
Weird.
reminds me of that.
Interesting. I did have an instance this last week where, because I also use this as the interface to provide audio out to my camera, where I plugged it into the camera and I hit record and I sat down and I went check, 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 and I watched the bars move at the top of I watched the EQ bars jump, and I went, okay, cool, we're good. And that was the last audio it ever recorded. For an hour.
Strange.
I literally went check, check. Okay, we're good. Zzz, and that's all it got. From there on out, it was just a hum. It was just mains hum.
Weird.
Yeah.
I went to go record a podcast like 2 weeks ago, and it turns out that I just never pressed record. You don't get podcasts back. I don't know if you knew that one.
No,
There's no recreating that. You got 5 guys in a room. That ain't coming back.
Yeah.
That's gone.
Yeah.
Luckily, very understanding people.
Good.
I was just like,
Good,
whoops,
good.
I forgot to press record on this one. And they're like, oh. Like the biggest reaction was like, I can't believe I held the mic that long. It's like, yeah, sorry.
Look, if we were just going to BS and drink beer, we could have done that. You didn't have to get us over in the
100%.
guise of a podcast.
That's exactly what the topic was. Like, you mean I could have cussed a few more times?
Right.
Like, oh well.
That's funny. Apple has launched a kind of quiet update to the MacBook Air. Now comes with an M4 processor and, probably the better news, 16 gigabytes of RAM as standard. And dropped $100 in price, $999. I like that. I really like that.
Yeah.
I have 2 laptops that I daily drive. I have an M1 MacBook Pro, 13-inch. I bought it the month it came out, December of 2020, I think. Yeah, so it's 5 years old at this point. It's still hanging on fantastically well. Such a great laptop. Probably the best laptop I've ever bought. As far as the most seamless to use, the fewest issues I've ever had, software or hardware wise, like all encompassing. Just, you open the lid, you do what you need to do, and it does everything well enough that you never think about the hardware inside, which is exactly what I like about my exactly what I want out of hardware. It's exactly why people buy game consoles. You buy a PS5 for $499, you download game, you play game. You don't set up settings, you don't install an OS, you don't do all this other crap. The hardware gets out of the way and lets you experience the thing that you're trying to do. M1 MacBook Pro, that's done that for me. And honestly, I haven't even thought about upgrading it until I saw this one and I went, M4, twice as fast, twice as much memory, because I have the base model. I have the 8 gig with 256. This would be a 16 gig with 256 for $999, which is $400 less than I spent on mine. $300. Mine was $1299. Bought it from Best Buy. Walked into a Best Buy because they were the only one that had it in stock, and I went, I'll take that.
Perfect.
Can we get you a warranty plan? No. Do you need Geek Squad to set that? No. McAfee antivirus? Jason says, I'm liking the M4 Mac Mini with 10 gig. I have been looking at that PC so hard. So hard. God, I want a Mac Mini M4. But I need a use case to justify it. And right now, I just don't have one. So I might just have to buy one because yeah, I know a couple people with the M4 Mac Minis, and they are awesome. One story that I really did want to get to is Guitar Hero. Guitar Hero is in the news with the launch of a new mobile game, Guitar Hero Mobile. However, that's not what the story is about. It's because Guitar Hero decided to launch Guitar Hero Mobile with this particular Instagram snap. I can't zoom in any further, but this should give you a pretty good idea. I have never seen something more AI generated in my life. I love that there's 4 guitarists on stage, number one.
Yeah.
A drum kit where one of the cymbals is all the way back here. And look, I don't expect an artist to know how a drum kit is set up. I expect them to know the basics, though, and there's not even a bass drum here. There's just cymbal stands all over the place. There's nothing behind the cymbal stands.
There doesn't look like anybody's sitting at it.
Except for this, no, there's a silhouette of someone's head right there. Kind of. But there's no bass drum. There's no toms. There's no anything else. It's just cymbal stands. He's sitting in front of a bunch of cymbal stands, which is how some drummers I've played with play drums. In their defense, yeah, it gets worse. The speakers aren't square. The speaker cabinets aren't square. They don't have the right perspective. Any artist who is worth anything, the first thing you learn how to do is draw perspective. Like, one of the first lessons you'll get in any high school art class, middle school art class, is perspective. You take all your straight lines and you put them to an infinite point at the end of your paper, and when they all meet, that means your perspective is correct and all of your lines are at the correct geometry, right? This line shoots down while this line shoots up. So this bottom speaker, this line shoots up here, and then this other speaker, this other cabinet, this line shoots down here. And so you've got two lines from just one thing that are doing this. What is this guy here? Why does this cabinet have no speaker over on this side? It's just horrible. And it's so obviously AI generated. But this is the image that they launched it to. This is the image that defines Guitar Hero Mobile.
And I love some of the frets are like the same color. It's like, come on, this is color coded, but which pink one? Like it's like.
Why is there a red and a yellow in line with the blue?
Like, the buttons are like the same color. You got two pinks, two blues, and then like the pink shifts to blue, the blue shifts to pink. It's like, what?
Why did they AI generate the fretboard? Like you had an artist design it for the game.
You could have literally just taken the Guitar Hero cover and put the word mobile on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. When we say artists are afraid that AI is going to take their jobs, this is the kind of crap we're afraid of. Is this shovelware garbage from a company that has the resources to do better. I am much more forgiving of an indie studio who doesn't have the budget for a marketing specialist and an entire team of artists to draw concept art and marketing material for their $7 indie game that was developed by 1.5 guys who also works full-time at Walmart.
But the funny thing about that is like that you just described the guy that will literally shoot himself before using AI.
That's exactly right. That is the guy who is least likely to ever use AI on his project ever.
Like, that guy, he is like literally going to war right now against AI, and
yeah,
he will go and donate his blood and plasma to like pay a contractor an appropriate wage to like, he's like, here's 40 hours of labor, my man. Can you make me cover art? Like,
right.
I don't know. It's it's just funny because it's all the big studios and everything. And then it's even more fitting that it's a mobile game. Mobile game is the death of any franchise anymore. And it's like they speed run it anymore. They're like, how fast can we get to making mobile games? Because these print money. It's like, well, I don't know, man.
Sorry. They started talking burgers and fries in chat. Novella says he wants Five Guys burgers right now, and I said we have a local franchise, local clone called Nancy's. Damn, does that sound good right now?
Yeah, I think Nancy's is theoretically, well, I don't know if it's older than Five Guys.
They came out literally at the same time in Salem when I saw them. I saw a Five Guys sprout up, and then like the next week I saw Nancy's sprout up in the Woodburn Outlet Mall. So,
well, there you go. I don't eat food anymore because it's too expensive. So
right.
I'm on booze and cigarettes from here on out.
To be fair, I have had today a small kids IKEA bowl full of Fritos scoops, a share size pack of Wild Berry Skittles, and a 48 ounce, whatever the double big gulp is, the double big gulp of Coca-Cola from 7-Eleven.
The double gulp is 64 ounces.
Is it 64? Then I had 64 ounces of Coca-Cola today.
That's a 2-liter, my man.
I'm better off not knowing some numbers.
You used to be able to refill those for a quarter.
Actually, what was really fun is in high school, the 7-Eleven was any size refill for like 25 or maybe 50 cents, maybe something like that.
It went up at some point.
Yeah.
It was originally 25.
Yeah, it was originally 25. I think even by the time I was in high school, it was 50 cents. But I went to a University of Oregon spring game one time, and at the spring game I was given an insulated mug that was 128 ounce.
Yeah.
Walls that are this thick. The cup was this big around. It's like holding a small saucepan, but it's also this tall. But it had like your snap-on travel lid on it with the 8th turn, flap that goes over the hole. But it was 128 ounces. And so I used to go to 7-Eleven and fill that for 50 cents.
Yep. Yeah, they eventually 7-Eleven would sell those, and they were called like Gator Gulps or something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. Like maybe not exact, but it was like Gator Gulps or like Gallon Gulps or like something like that. And yeah, you could
go. It's literally a gallon of soda.
Yeah, the cup might have cost $20, but then you go in and refill it for 50 cents.
Yeah,
and you're making your money back.
And even
and they were insulated. They were
insulated. They had they held ice all day long, and so I used to drive around to
Team Gulp, not
Team
Gator Gulp. Somebody nailed it. Yeah.
I used to drive around to a whole bunch of retail stores, stocking shelves. I was a merchandiser for Coca-Cola, as it turns out, for about 9 months, and not the worst job I've ever had. You work 90 hours a week, but you were making well above average wage as your base pay. Like, I think minimum wage when I was working there was something like $6.15, maybe $5.75. Like it was not like transition period. I was making $14 an hour base pay, and then $21 an hour overtime, and you're doing 50 hours of overtime a week. Like the first week I worked at Coca-Cola, I did 90 hours. That was one of the biggest paychecks I had for the next 7 years. Like,
perfect.
Yeah, it was crazy. But no, I used to, I had that cup for many, many years, and I used to go to 7-Eleven in the morning, and I would fill that cup up, and I'd drive around from store to store, and all right, set my cup down and go in and do your thing and come back out and drive around in traffic, and you've got your 64 ounces of soda. Yep. Novella says Rett doesn't eat anymore. He just filter feeds like SpongeBob.
Water.
Do I crack an egg?
Mickey!
Do I crack an egg in your bathwater and you just kind of like slosh around in it? Like, is that how that works?
Yeah.
I mean, I know eggs
Exactly.
are $2 a piece right now, but
It's true. Yeah, we can't waste eggs in my bathwater.
mm-hmm.
Just a little bit of fish food.
Yep. Actually, if you want to know by the numbers, if anyone shops at Costco, the highest protein per dollar, it's in the pork chops. You can get pork chops for $2.50 a pound. And so every couple of weeks lately, we've been buying one of their like 12 counts of 2-inch thick pork chops. And I'll get home and I'll just toss them on the Traeger. I'll throw a barbecue sauce and a bunch of seasonings on 4 of them, and then I'll just do like salt and pepper on the other 8. And you put them in the fridge, and we eat the barbecue ones just straight up, like make some instant potatoes and some corn, and you got a meal for like less than $1 a serving for your whole family. And then all the rest of them, you can we'll cube up some of the others. Like we'll cube up 2 of the other pork chops, and then we'll make like pork tacos. We'll do we'll cut it up with pasta. We've done. My wife made enchiladas last night. Freaking holy crap!
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah. If you want like the best performance per dollar when it comes to food, the pork chops at Costco for $2.50 a pound, boneless. Boneless. Yeah, thick cut of pork chops is the way to go. Not much flavor in the thin ones. Yeah, the thick cut ones, the 2 to 2.5 inch thick cuts is what we usually go for.
Perfect.
What I'm hearing is dinner party at Jeff's tonight. No, but you know what? I might bring up some triggered pork chops to PDX Land. Maybe I'll do that for a meal. I think that might be fun.
Yeah, there you go. PDX Land coming up. About a month away.
Yep. My new rig for PDX Land is sitting right next to me, which I've teased a little bit on the Discord and on socials. I crammed an RTX 5090 into a small form factor ITX case, and it actually performs very, very well. Nice. So that's going to be video number 1, is putting it in the box and then seeing how it performs. And I did a slight underclock on it, and we're running it at 90% TDP, so it's running at like 520 watt TDP. The second video is going to be the case mod that I'm doing to this box, so stay tuned if you're into some case mods. I'm putting an LCD screen on the front of this one with all my system stats. So so I can have my 43-inch monitor in front of me at PDX Land, and then also glance to my right and see all of my system stats, my fan usage and my TDPs and everything else. So yeah. Also, whoever sits directly to my right is not going to need a sweatshirt. Because the GPU is 600 watts and it's a blow-through cooler, and I'm blowing all of that 600 watts straight out the side. With a pair of 140 millimeter fans to help it on its way. So you can feel the heat from this GPU from 5 feet away. It's
Nice.
insane.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
I was thinking about just going simple and bringing my Steam Deck and setting it up with my dock, and
You know,
we'll see if I end up doing that. But
if you want to bring a monitor, I can bring you one of my ITX boxes, because I've got like 4 or 5 ITX boxes literally ready to go. So
yeah,
if you want to
maybe.
bring peripherals, I'll bring the PC, and then you don't have to game on a Steam Deck.
It's not that I have to. Okay.
The thing with the Steam Deck, though, if you bring the Steam Deck, you're going to need a USB Ethernet adapter because the Wi-Fi is terrible.
Yeah, I think my dock.
You have USB. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I think I have a pretty decent dock that has something, an adapter for that and all that.
Yeah.
It's got all the USB ports that I need. I think it's got a good Ethernet port. I have to look at it again, but I mean, I spent like an extra $10 to get the Ethernet port on it, so. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll hit you up about that.
Anyway.
Yeah, we gotta play some UT. That's right, Vince.
What?
Vince is saying that we got to play some Unreal tournaments, so.
We will probably get some UT going, although I will take full credit for getting Duke Nukem 3D going at the last one. You missed that one, Rett.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
we did some Duke Nukem 3D. And that was... We had 12-player Duke death matches going on. That was freaking epic. We're going to have to revisit that.
That'll be fun. I'm down for it.
So, anyway, this has been fun. This has been episode 372 of Talking Heads. Join us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific time for the latest in beer and tech news right here on YouTube. Follow me at Craft Computing. Bluesky is where you'll find me most often on the public socials right now. You can also join the Patreon, patreon.com/craftcomputing. $1 a month gets you access to my exclusive Discord server. It's not that I'm elitist, it's just I charge you $1 to keep the trolls at bay. It keeps the Discord free of riffraff, and it absolutely works. And it is, I'm not just patting myself on the back here, it's the best Discord server I belong to. We also do an after party immediately following every live stream where I'll pour myself a third beer for the night and I jump on video chat and we just have at whatever topic comes up. Ask me questions, talk about how the day was, tell me what beer you're drinking, get into car chat, make fun of Cosworth for his Ridgeline. Like there's all sorts of fun stuff going on there. But
for the really good after parties, also we get shirts for skins going on.
We get shirts for skins going on sometimes. Yeah. Rett, anything good of the order? Anything you're working on? Want people to see?
Nothing crazy, but going on almost 8 years now. I've got my D&D podcast, right? dndpodcast.org or theendattheend.com. Recently we just launched kind of like a mini thing that we're doing where actually years ago I arranged to get some music from somebody who went on to be one of the runners up for season 46 of Survivor. So I've got Ben Katzman's music featured prominently in last week's episode at dndpodcast.org and this coming up week's episode as well, and probably another one. And then we'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming. But there you go. So if you guys like tabletop, you guys like Dungeons and Dragons.
I did finally get so me and my sister are huge Baldur's Gate fans, and we actually finally got my wife roped into a playthrough, and so we've been playing about once or twice a week for like 3 hours. So we'll put the kids to bed on like Saturday night and go like it's Baldur's Gate time. Let's break out the beer and the cider and let's go hit Baldur's Gate. We're just about ready to enter Act 2.
Nice.
But it's my wife's first ever experience with anything Dungeons and Dragons related, and so it's been teaching her about not only the game but also teaching her, well, this is what the dice mean, and what is advantage, what is disadvantage, what do all these terms mean when you're talking about probability of rolling the right thing, and how does combat work. And she started putting the pieces together that some of the role-playing games that she's played, those are just dice rolls based on your probability. Like, I take a swing at something. It doesn't necessarily mean I hit it or that I do this much damage. It's based on a D20 that I swing and I make contact and I do a 12 of damage. And I went, yes.
Yeah.
And it's been fun.
That's what people hate about Morrowind, is all of the off-screen dice rolls.
Yeah. Which is every RPG ever. It's just Morrowind didn't hide what it was trying to do. And it allowed you to roll ones, and that's okay.
Yep. So, that's great. Excited for her.
Yeah. So it's been fun. Like I said,
real Dungeons and Dragons going.
Yeah. I think that's the next step. Is we might jump into Tabletop Simulator and maybe do
like easer
into the I don't have the facility to set up a table with miniatures and then leave it alone for a week. So it's either we do a one-shot 3-hour campaign, which I'm not a huge fan of one-shot, especially like 3-hour. Like if you give me a one-shot 12-hour, I'm all in. I will totally run a campaign with you. But
Tabletop Simulator is a good way to go, but there's also a lot of other virtual tabletop alternatives. Like Roll20 is like, Roll20.net is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
There's Foundry. There's even some like cheap alternatives. Like I think there's one called like, I used to use it all the time, like called like Meeps or something like that. Maybe I'd have to look that up. But the other alternative, Jeff, Theater of the Mind, no miniatures, just paint a verbal picture and play the game.
Do you know what I have? I have an original box of Hero Quest.
Nice. That's awesome.
I have one of the OG release boxes of Hero Quest. What's funny is for 20 years, I didn't think it was anything special. It's like, yeah, that's a game that we played. It was just a board game that was in my closet. And in the last couple of years, I've been made aware, like, no, that is like a dealer giving you the first hit for free of a Dungeons and Dragons campaign because it comes pre-packaged with 50 one-shots essentially. And it teaches you all the basics of Dungeons and Dragons without having to create your own character. You just choose from one of the 4 starters and you build their stats and whatever else.
And you go for it.
And you go for it.
Yeah, that's great.
And you play like a 3-hour campaign. And
that's fun.
But no, I have an original copy of Hero Quest, the full board game with all the miniatures and all the skeletons and the bookcases and fireplaces and the orc and everything else, the gargoyle. Yeah.
Perfect.
So, and I have that from like 1993. So
nice work.
So maybe that's the next step. Maybe we go from Baldur's Gate 3 to doing some Hero Quest one-shots.
Heck yeah. That sounds fun.
Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. As always, we'll see you next week. Cheers, everyone.